Smartphone, DSTV channel 856 and on 92.7 and 106 FM. This is 702.
On the 2nd of February 2017, Fort will launch hashtag CreateMovement, a campaign that aims to bring attention to and start a conversation around decolonizing the African creative economy, starting a new narrative and developing a generation of storytellers, culminating in a campaign video filmed at the event itself. To tell us more about Fort and this hashtag CreateMovement campaign is the CEO of Fort's global network, Shukri Toefy. Am I pronouncing it correctly? Hi, Shukri.
Yes. Hey, how are you, Lebo? Yes, it's Shukri Toefy. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. And how are you?
Good. Very early. I have my son looking at me here. You know, he's proud that I'm on the radio. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. How old is he?
He's 5.
Oh, that is so cute. So do tell us now, what is this idea, decolonizing the African creative economy?
Look, I think, decolonizing is such a loaded term, and so I'm mindful of that. When, in essence, what we're trying to draw attention to and a consciousness around is that we may be a creative and production network that's been worked hard enough to be independently owned and African-owned to be able to build a network in the rest of Africa, in East Africa and West Africa and into Dubai. But what we really need to realize is that a lot of our creative economy is still foreign-owned, and even though a lot of people within the creative economy do amazing work, we feel like we need to set an example where there's not only South African ownership, but also African ownership within these networks that we build. And so we're setting the example of gifting 10% of our company to our employee share scheme and 1% of our company to our community development fund called Hold the Fort. So it's really that. It's just for people to think, for investors to think about whether they're investing in the creative economy, whether people who are working within the creative economy, what role they play within that. And we believe they should share in the ownership of that. And also for companies that work within the creative economy to think about who they work with and the decisions they make with the budgets that they have.
And what exactly do you mean by the creative economy? So we can just clarify the specific space that you are speaking about.
So we speak, quite broadly. I think it's becoming more and more of a term, certainly in other parts of the world, in North America and the Middle East and Europe. But in essence, I think, music, advertising, communication, film and media, those sort of creative industries, some of the arts and things like that. We're saying that we need to take ownership of that as a continent. We need to unite, and we as Fort are trying to get people within the creative economy. So actors, actresses, musicians, advertising agencies, brands, marketers, to come together to stand up and create a consciousness around taking ownership of our industry.
So tell us more about the actual campaign taking place on the 2nd.
So we are standing up together on the 2nd and are going to be shooting a campaign video where we show our unity as a continent and as like-minded individuals to say, let's stand up and think about how we think and create on this continent, and try to take that message to the rest of the continent. And so this will move to Kenya and Nigeria firstly, and then to the rest of the media in the States and Europe. And we're standing up and saying, let's try and be united. There's so much competition in our industries. There's so much infighting, and we need to stand up together and create movement together, because we believe that there's enough for everybody to sort of, prosper and do really well.
And what other kind of work does Fort do?
So we are a creative content and production agency. So we work in entertainment and advertising, producing advertising campaigns and the sort of crossover between advertising and entertainment. And a large part of what we do is done with brands and artists on the rest of the continent. And our global headquarters, which we are really proud of, is going to be in Johannesburg, South Africa. And as I said, I think in the context of decolonizing South Africa's education system in South Africa, we started our business 10 years ago as two students at UCT to pay back our student loans. And here we are 10 years later, now trying to say that actually this idea of decolonizing and taking ownership of the systems that we work in doesn't end at our education level. It carries on as we go into our professional careers.
I'm quite curious because you work in the art space and you're speaking about decolonizing the creative economy. Do you take it a step further by trying to decolonizing the arts itself and the influence on the arts that you create? And how do you go about doing it? Because we are so westernized in the work that we do. A lot of the references in the creative space are international references. And how do you overcome that?
Well, yeah, I think that goes really to the heart of it. I think we reference global work, we overvalue international work, and we undermine the work that we do. And we'd like to say we'd like to create our own agenda and say that, for example, this campaign video can be a case study and an example that other people reference on the continent and the rest of the world to say this is an amazing thought-through case study video and campaign video. And we hope that it gets people to think about it. I think, in essence, that's the first thing we need to be able to do. And then we need to set an example as a world-class African brand and say that we can reference ourselves, we can have a real pride in the work that we do, and as a network, start referencing each other and start to create opportunities for people to work within an independent African-owned creative and production agency.
So how can the average South African contribute to hashtag CreateMovement?
So at the moment, we have, I think over 700 people coming to our launch on Thursday night. And then we're going to have a campaign video which launches the following week. And thereafter, our hope is that we'll be able to organize more and more kind of discussions and allow people to come into the discussion a little bit more. And so I think the hashtag will be CreateMovement and hashtag Fort. And from there, I think, we'll see how we can include more people and try and, start the conversation. Because as you say, I think there's a lot that needs to be done. And we certainly don't think that we have all the solutions around that. There are many, many really exciting companies. We happen to be behind this movement, but there could be many, many other companies that could rally just as strongly, and they are attending our launch to show their support in this regard.
And of course, the video will be premiering on MTV Base on the 8th of February, so we'll all be able to see it.
Yes, absolutely. And I think with the amount of celebrities and influencers that we have at the event, I think you'll certainly come across it on social media as well.
That sounds absolutely fantastic. And I wish you the best of luck. I think what you're trying to drive with this campaign is beautiful. We really, really need to push for more African uniqueness in the creative spaces that we are working in. And the more we can do, the better.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you for your show. The future is African and the future is female. So.
Oh, yes, the future is female. I'm so for that. Shukri Toefy, CEO of Ford's Global Network, thank you so much for your time on the Early Breakfast Show this morning.